The house breathed the way it always had at night, slow, careful, almost afraid of waking old memories. Yellow light spilled softly from the kitchen into the hallway, touching the walls where time had left quiet fingerprints. Outside, the wind brushed against the windows, carrying the faint sound of leaves scraping the pavement like whispered secrets. She stood at the sink, hands submerged in warm water, when she felt it. Not a sound, not movement, just the knowing. Mothers carried that sense like an extra organ, the awareness that something had shifted long before words arrived. Her shoulders stiffened almost imperceptibly as she turned off the tap and dried her hands. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. He was standing in the doorway. Older than the boy she remembered, thinner than the man he pretended to be. His jacket hung loose on his frame, eyes shadowed by something heavier than exhaustion. He didn't step inside right away. He hovered, like someone unsure whether they were allowed to return to a place that still felt like home. "You didn't call," she said gently. "I know." His voice was quieter than she expected. Controlled. Careful. Like it might crack if he let it rise. She smiled anyway, the kind of smile that carried relief, worry, and denial all at once, and motioned him in. He followed, setting his bag down with deliberate slowness, as if the sound of it touching the floor might shatter the fragile calm between them. They moved around each other in practiced familiarity. She poured tea. He sat at the table where he had done homework, where arguments and laughter had once collided, where silence now felt heavier than any raised voice ever had. She noticed everything. The way his fingers trembled slightly when he wrapped them around the cup. The way he avoided her eyes, staring instead at the faint crack in the wall near the window, the one they had promised to fix years ago and never did. "You're cold," she said. "I'm fine." He always said that. She reached for the drawer without thinking, pulling out the old bracelet, thin leather, worn soft with age, a small metal circle stitched into it. The secret circle. She had made it for him when he was younger, telling him it was a reminder that no matter how far he went, there was always a way back. She placed it on the table between them. His breath caught. For a moment, the world narrowed to that small circle of metal reflecting the kitchen light. "You kept it," he said. "I never stopped." His eyes finally lifted to hers, and something raw flickered there, guilt, gratitude, fear, all tangled together. His jaw tightened as if he were holding something back. She could feel it now, pressing against the air between them, heavy and unspoken. "You don't have to do this," she said softly, though she wasn't sure what this meant yet. "Yes," he replied. "I do." Silence settled again, thick and intimate. The kind that spoke louder than confession. He reached out and touched the bracelet, thumb tracing the circle as if committing it to memory. His hand lingered there longer than necessary. "There's something I need to ask you," he said. Her chest tightened. Not because she didn't want to hear it, but because some part of her already knew it would change everything. She nodded once. "Whatever it is," she said, voice steady despite the storm forming beneath it, "you can say it." He inhaled slowly, eyes closing for a brief moment, as if gathering the courage to step off a cliff he had been standing on for years. The clock ticked. The wind pressed harder against the windows. And somewhere between the past they shared and the future he was about to tear open, the words waited, sharp, unthinkable, inevitable. The silence after his words stretched, not breaking, only deepening, like water growing darker the farther it went. She watched him closely now, the way a person studies the horizon when they sense a storm but cannot yet see the clouds. His shoulders were rigid, spine straight, as if posture alone could keep him from collapsing inward. "Say it," she whispered, not urging, not demanding, simply opening the door. He swallowed. The movement was small, but she saw it. She always saw the small things. The things people thought they hid well. "There are moments," he began slowly, "when you realize that staying hurts more than leaving." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table. She didn't interrupt. She knew better than to rush words that had clearly taken years to form. "I didn't plan to come back like this," he continued. "I told myself I wouldn't. That I'd find a way to disappear quietly." Her heart recoiled at the word, but she kept her face still. "Mothers learned early how to absorb pain without letting it spill. But I couldn't," he said. "Not without seeing you. Not without asking you first." The bracelet lay between them like a witness. The secret circle caught the light again as he nudged it slightly, the faint metallic sound echoing too loudly in the room. "Do you remember," he asked, "when you told me this circle meant I was never trapped?" She nodded. The memory surfaced instantly, him small, angry at the world, afraid of becoming something he didn't recognize. She had stitched the bracelet late at night, fingers aching, heart fuller than she knew how to express. "You said," he went on, "a circle isn't a cage. It's a choice. She felt tears rise, sharp and unwelcome, but she blinked them back. I need you to remember that now, he said. The weight of his gaze pressed into her chest. Something inside her shifted, not breaking yet, but bending dangerously close to it. You're talking like someone who's already decided, she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly, as if letting go of the last illusion that this conversation might end gently. The kitchen light cast shadows across his face, making him look older than his years, etched by choices she hadn't been there to stop. I've been living on borrowed time, he admitted. Borrowed hope. Borrowed strength. Her breath hitched despite her effort to control it. From me? She asked. Yes, he said immediately. Always from you. The words landed with a strange duality, love and accusation woven together so tightly they couldn't be separated. She realized then that this wasn't about leaving a place. It was about leaving her, or asking permission to. She stood abruptly, needing movement, space, air. She crossed the kitchen slowly, pressing her palm against the counter to steady herself. The room felt smaller now, the walls listening. You think I don't feel it? She said, her voice trembling for the first time. That I haven't noticed you pulling away, little by little. That I haven't been waiting for this moment. He stood too, the chair scraping softly against the floor. I never wanted to hurt you, he said. That's why I waited. She turned to face him then, eyes shining, jaw set. And what makes you think this won't? She asked. He hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. The space between them closed slightly, not physically, but emotionally, as if the truth was pulling them toward the same center. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, edges worn thin. I wrote it down, he said. Because I was afraid I'd lose my nerve. Her stomach dropped. She didn't take it yet. Instead, she looked at his face, memorizing it in a way that terrified her. The curve of his cheek. The faint scar near his eyebrow. All the evidence of years she could never reclaim. What is it you want from me? She asked softly. His eyes filled then, finally. Tears he had clearly refused to allow until this moment. I want you to promise, he said, voice breaking, that you won't come after me. The words struck like a physical blow. That you won't wait, he continued, each word heavier than the last. That you won't build your life around the space I leave behind. She shook her head slowly, disbelief flooding her features. You're asking me, she said, to stop being your mother. No, he whispered urgently. I'm asking you to let me go as your son. The distinction shattered something fragile inside her. The secret circle suddenly felt smaller, its symbolism sharper. Protection had always gone both ways, she was realizing that too late. Why now? She asked. He took a step closer, stopping just short of touching her. The air between them vibrated with unsaid things. Because if I don't ask you, he said, I'll never be free. And if you don't let me go, neither will you. Her chest rose and fell rapidly now. The room felt unbearably quiet, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Outside, the wind died down. Inside, everything was coming undone. She finally reached for the folded paper, fingers trembling as she took it from his hand. She didn't open it yet. She wasn't sure she could survive what was written there. The bracelet slipped slightly on the table, the circle tilting, no longer perfectly closed. And in that small, imperfect gap, she realized the truth she had been avoiding. Whatever answer she gave him next would change them forever. She sat back down slowly, as if her legs no longer trusted the ground. The folded paper rested in her hands like something alive, breathing, waiting, dangerous. She didn't unfold it yet. Some truths demanded to be approached sideways, through silence and patience, not force. He remained standing across from her, arms loose at his sides, eyes fixed on her face with a mixture of fear and resolve. He looked like someone who had already crossed a line and was now waiting to see what part of himself would be left behind. You used to do this, she said suddenly. Do what? He asked. Hold things in until they almost destroyed you, she replied softly. You thought if you carried them long enough, they'd disappear. He looked away, jaw tightening. I learned that from you, he said. The words were not meant as blame, but they landed that way anyway. She absorbed them quietly, the way she had absorbed everything else in her life, grief, responsibility, love, storing it deep, telling herself it was strength. She unfolded the paper at last. The sound was barely audible, but it echoed in her chest. Her eyes moved slowly across the page. She didn't rush. She couldn't. Each line felt like a step deeper into water she wasn't sure she could swim out of. His handwriting was careful, almost restrained. As if he had tried to keep the truth neat, contained, less terrifying than it was. When she finished reading, she closed her eyes. For a long moment, she didn't speak. He shifted slightly, uncertainty creeping into his posture. The confidence he had carried into the room was thinning now, worn down by the waiting. You should be angry, he said quietly. If you are, I understand. She opened her eyes and looked at him, really looked. Not at the man who had learned to leave, but at the boy who had once been afraid of staying. You think anger is the hardest thing I could feel? She asked. He frowned slightly, confused. It isn't, she continued. The hardest thing is understanding why you didn't think you deserved to stay. That broke him more than any raised voice could have. His shoulders sagged, the tension finally loosening its grip. He dragged a hand down his face, breath uneven now. I didn't want to become a burden, he admitted. I didn't want my life to be something you had to carry on your back. You were never a burden, she said immediately. You were my reason. The words came out stronger than she expected. They surprised them both. She stood again, slowly this time, moving closer. The space between them shrank until it was almost nothing, not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth of each other's breath, the quiet gravity that had always pulled them back together no matter how far he went. You think letting go is kindness, she said, voice trembling but steady. But love doesn't work like that. Love doesn't disappear just because you ask it to. He looked at her then with raw vulnerability, eyes glossy, defenses gone. That's why I needed your permission, he whispered. Because without it, I'll always belong here. She reached out and touched his wrist, a small gesture, restrained, intimate in its simplicity. Her fingers brushed against the place where the bracelet had once rested, the absence of it suddenly loud. The secret circle, she murmured. It was never about leaving. He swallowed. It was about coming back, he finished quietly. They stood there, suspended in that realization. The circle had never been a boundary, it was a promise. One neither of them had known how to break without shattering something essential. She withdrew her hand slowly, the loss of contact sharper than she expected. You're asking me to survive something I've never practiced, she said. I know, he replied. And I hate myself for it. She shook her head. No, she said firmly. You don't get to turn this into punishment. Not for you. Not for me. Her gaze softened then, layered with sadness and something else, resolve. If I let you go, she continued, it won't be because I stopped loving you. His breath caught. It will be because I loved you enough to trust who you are becoming. Tears finally spilled over, silent and unashamed. He nodded, once, twice, as if anchoring himself to her words. Outside, dawn began to creep faintly into the sky, pale and uncertain. Night was loosening its hold, even if neither of them was ready for what daylight would reveal. She reached for the bracelet again, lifting it gently. This stays with me, she said. Not as a chain. As a reminder. He watched her carefully. Of what? He asked. That some bonds don't end, she replied. They just change shape. She placed the bracelet back in the drawer, closing it with quiet finality. The sound felt symbolic, not an ending, but a pause. He exhaled shakily, as if a weight had shifted, though not lifted. So, he began. Your answer. She looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time that night, she didn't know what she would say next. Because love, she was realizing, didn't always give clear instructions. Sometimes it only gave you a choice that would echo forever.